Is Pixar's Coco the best movie about being dead? Maybe, but it's definitely the one with the most toys. The latest release from Disney and Pixar, Coco, is all about little Miguel, a Mexican child whose family has banned all music due to the patriarch of the clan running off decades prior to pursue his dream of being a famous singer. You can't even play a tune in front of these people, lest a crusty old granny raps you over the head with a stiletto heel. Unfortunately for his simple relatives in their modest, unsuccessful shoemaking business, Miguel just can't stop strumming a guitar he hides in the attic of their house. And that is not a euphemism for something else. He hides record players and VHS tapes of his favorite singer, the deceased Ernesto de la Cruz, who's kind of like a Mexican Elvis, but without the fat phase and definitely dead. When Miguel learns that Ernesto might be the shifty relative who ran away all those many years ago, he steals his hero's guitar from his grave during the Dia de los Muertos celebration. Coco is rated PG for suggestive situations and mild grave robbing. Some mystical exposition I won't waste your time on sends Miguel into the afterlife, a bustling metropolis filled with dead people, in order to find and convince a very deceased Ernesto to give him his blessing to play music. But if Miguel doesn't get that blessing in time, he'll be stuck in the land of the dead forever. If you like Pixar movies, hoo boy are you gonna like this one. The voice cast, which features Benjamin Bratt, Gael Garcia Bernal, and Edward James Olmos, is great. The plot's various twists and turns are expected and don't challenge the audience much at all. This is a kids movie, it's not Inception. It's got plenty of catchy songs, a sweeping score by the immensely talented Michael Giacchino, heartwarming moments, and a recurring theme that you are going to do. Dreams are wonderful. I had a dream once about the world's largest tater tot. You don't see me giving up my job as a world famous YouTube star to peel potatoes. As much as I'd like to. Most people's dreams do not come true, which is why I'd like to see more films tell the truth to children. Wouldn't it be nice to see a movie about a noble garbage man or the most fascinating ditch digger? The guy with the orange vest on the side of the freeway picking up moldy cheeseburgers deserves a movie too. Despite my ditch digging qualms, this is a good movie, and by good I mean effective at entertaining you for an hour and a half, like every Pixar movie. The story structure is solid, there are a few decent jokes, and it's great to see a major Hollywood film about Mexican culture that isn't patronizing. Still, Coco contains the same tedious message that every one of these cartoons splats in your face. You're special. You deserve success. Your parents are misguided, but ultimately have your best interest in mind, and never stop daydreaming, no matter what. I admit that I cried, but for what? What did I get out of this movie other than a few tears, a minor chuckle, and the creeping dread associated with the oncoming end of my existence? In the middle of all the good cheer, you realize that the movie you're watching mostly takes place in purgatory. At one point, I'm pretty sure I saw a skeleton that looked like a toddler. The implication here is that this character died as a child. Underneath the charm and the Toy Bin Ready animation, this is a movie about coming to terms with mortality. For kids! With songs! Coco makes death seem like it's not that bad because there's a super fun afterlife with flying trolley cars, music festivals, and an annual opportunity to return to the real world to visit your loved ones that makes death resemble a princess cruise hijacked by mariachis. I'm sorry, but children should be afraid to die. Death is scary. We don't actually know what happens when we die. For all I know, when you die, you could be forced to host a movie review web series. Let's stop feeding children a salty bag of lies and make a real cartoon movie where the checkout clerk at a grocery store has a heart attack mid-shift because he ate too many frozen pizzas. It's time that our children become as depressed as we are. Who is this movie for? This movie is for Tucker. Tucker is a millennial who was raised by his parents who had jobs they didn't necessarily love, but they accepted their fate and worked hard to pay for their kid Tucker to go to an expensive liberal arts college in New England. Since graduating, Tucker has lived in San Francisco and Brooklyn and now Los Angeles. Hasn't really found his way, but is not willing to accept the honest truth that he is not an artist, even though he wrote 4 pages of a screenplay once and then at bars talked about how he was writing his screenplay for several years. This movie is for you, Tucker, because it reaffirms this very millennial concept of everyone being a unique artist with thoughts and theories that the rest of the world is desperately waiting to hear. Instead of realizing that they're pretty average, taking a 9 to 5, and having a healthy, balanced life, they will suffer through identity crisis after identity crisis through their 20s and 30s. We don't really know how they'll end up because we haven't seen how this generation is going to pan out. We don't even know if Tucker is ever going to afford a house or retire, if Tucker continues to spend $6 on coffee twice a day. It doesn't seem all that hopeful for Tucker because 1% has taken the lion's share of wealth, and the millennials just don't seem to realize that their parents' money is going to run out, and they're due for a brutal awakening when they're in their 50s and they're not an artist, and they really have to contemplate moving back to the increasingly unpopular suburbs that they fled a mere 10 years ago. This movie is for you, Dave. I mean Tucker. Keep dreaming, Dave. I mean Tucker. I don't know who I mean. You're not Miguel. I'm not Miguel. I have no dedication. Calling myself an artist doesn't make me one. After seeing Coco, go home, check out Terry Gilliam's fantasy classic Time Bandits on the Filmstruck app, available on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and a variety of other devices, up to but not including a T-Mobile Sidekick or Microsoft Zune. Like Coco, Time Bandits, starring Sean Connery, plus a litany of cameos by famous British actors, is all about a kid who rebels against his family to go off on an adventure in another world. The titular bandits have become very adept at robbing historical figures of treasures along the way. Both films are stories with magic portals and faraway lands filled with exotic dangers. While movies like Back to the Future assume that technology is the key to transcending your mundane little kid existence, Time Bandits and Coco presume that your ticket out is something mystical and otherworldly. But unlike Coco, instead of a brush with death, the protagonist Kevin travels through time with a band of dwarves who've stolen a map that allows him to bounce from a variety of historical periods. This is a weird movie, which shouldn't be surprising since it's directed by Terry Gilliam, a former member of the Monty Python comedy troupe. Like most kids' movies, your Harry Potters, your Star Wars, and your Willy Wonkas, etc., parents are the obstacle preventing the child hero from achieving their goals. The difference here is that the parents are not necessarily cruel or repressive. They're just stupid. Parents in this film are vacuous, obsessed with technology, and selfish, which makes me think they're also time travelers from the year 2017. Kevin learns a valuable lesson that your parents are twits, you're better off rebelling, and if a bunch of little people burst through your closet door, you should follow them. Time Bandits might not have aged that well since it's a bit slow and kids' movies don't usually end with the gruesome violence that wraps up this film, but it is a welcome change of pace from the sugary sweet, maudlin Pixar formula. Kevin and the Time Bandits travel from year to year, brushing up against real historic tragedies, wars, famines, and man-made disasters like the Titanic. Death is cold and unforgiving. You and I are merely pawns in the century-old game of life. Our place in this story is minor at best. Like these time-traveling dwarves, the best we can hope for is to steal as much as we can before it's too late. If you have a child, sit them down and pull up Time Bandits on Filmstruck. I promise you it's not as depressing as it sounds. But the best thing you can do for your kid is to avoid making them think they're special. You too will be swept away by the winds of time, barely registering a blip on the radar of existence, no matter how good you are at playing the guitar. Thanks for watching Cinemacope, guys! Brought to you by Filmstruck, your only streaming source for Criterion Collection movies like Time Bandits. As Coco has taught us, Chili's specter of death comes for everyone, even this show. That's right, folks, this is the final episode of Cinemacope. Say whatever you want in the comments now. I really don't care because I'm not going to read them anymore. We'll return once a year during Dia de los Muertos to haunt your terrible taste in movies. And if the Emoji Movie 2 comes out, look to the west, beyond the farthest star, where the summer rains quench a thirsty people. I'll be there.